I want to flag the two elements that highlight the reality of the incarnation in this passage. The first is a little discussed, but central element of the Christian faith, a core tenet of Christian spiritual metaphysics, if you will. And it is found in the very same dynamic just mentioned. Luke tells us that Jesus is filled with and led by the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. In this, the incarnate Son, Jesus Christ, exemplifies a very basic and all-important dimension of authentic human life. Namely, each human life is meant to be animated by the perfect harmony between the divine and human will, which is indicated by the verbiage of being led by in this verse. No one can be said to be leading if no one is engaged in the cooperative act of following. Thus, by the mere act of going out into the desert, led by the Spirit, Jesus teaches us something profound. Human life is only lived rightly when animated by a will that harmonizes, or perhaps better, cooperatively wills with the will of God. This is precisely what Jesus will fully exemplify in his three responses to the devil in this episode. The second element that shouts the reality of the incarnation to us in this passage is the simple fact that Luke describes Jesus as being hungry. We might read the verse and say to ourselves, of course Jesus was hungry. He hadn't eaten in 40 days. Right. But God in God's self does not experience hunger. God is spirit. God in God's self does not even have a body to experience hunger through. The point is mind-blowing, everyone. God can only experience bodily hunger by assuming a human nature, by becoming incarnate. The hunger of the incarnate Son of God is thus a strong indication of his humanness, but also of God's solidarity, sharing in all things human. If we put the harmonious cooperation of Jesus' human will with the interior action of the Holy Spirit, together with his experience of hunger, we find the expression of a virtue that is all important to our Lenten journey, and human life more generally. As discussed on the seventh Sunday in Ordinary Time, hunger is a clear reminder of our humanness, and in our case, our creatureliness. If we do not eat, we die. Hunger is a reminder that we are not self-generating, not self-sustaining, which conversely, God is. Hunger is thus a reminder that we are not God. It is a reminder, everybody, that as we heard on Ash Wednesday, as the ashes were traced on our foreheads, that we are dust, and unto dust we shall return. The ashes thus signify our earthiness, our creatureliness, and therefore a virtue central to human living, humility. Humility comes from the Latin humus, meaning earth. This virtue enables us to maintain a proper view and understanding of ourselves, an understanding that most importantly accepts that we are creatures. Hunger, by telling us that we are not God, ought to foster or even compel humility within us. And it is this very humility that gives us the strength to harmoniously cooperate with God's will in our lives, rather than try to feebly dictate our lives on our own. Possessed of a perfect human nature, Jesus possesses this virtue completely, and it gives him the spiritual strength to overcome the temptations of the devil in the desert.